Hello class and welcome to week 6. This week you have some very important assignments due. But before we get into that, I wanted to talk about something that I've noticed across the term. Many of you in your discussion post or in your paper, when you're thinking about microaggressions or when you're thinking about sort of doing something in session to a client that you need to apologize for, many of you have quoted the COU quote where he talks about not covering up, but it is how you recover. And I've greatly appreciated that. I wanted to impress upon you what might happen not in the first session, so not when you first meet the client and you see that there are visible differences, maybe in age, maybe in race, maybe in ethnicity, and even in gender. So not in that first session or something that you might glean from the case file before you meet your client. But what happens when you've been working with your client for quite some time and they reveal something in session that causes you to have a microaggressive reaction? So what I mean by this is, I was working with a gentleman for many sessions. I felt like he and I had gathered and gained great rapport. And he discloses in session, just out of the blue, it was almost an aside, how much he hated Jewish people. And, internally, I was saying, what in the world? Like, how did I miss this? How did I not know this about my client? And also, internally, I was a bit conflicted because that goes against all of my values. That goes against what I think as a person. And here I have someone sitting across from me that I thought I knew who disclosed a very deep hatred of an entire group of people. And so think about those moments. So not necessarily what you might see when you first see a client, but what if your client discloses something that goes against, what you believe? And what if you commit a microaggression? In that situation, I did keep my face composed and I had to very much process it in supervision. And yet at the same time, if I had made a face at the client, or if I made a startled reaction, again, thinking about how to recover from those types of instances in session. And so I just wanted to give you all that to chew upon. And you can't account for everything that's going to happen in therapy with a client. But at the same time, while you're here in training, I do want you all to think and challenge yourself to think about situations that really would be difficult for you. With that being said, we're going to transition into spirituality and counseling. I believe it was Karl Marx who said that religion was the opium for the masses. And so there has been an inimical relationship between science and religion. If you do have a client who practices a faith tradition, however, be it a higher power, Mother Earth, God, etc., the divine, that's my dog, this is an entity that stays with the person always. This is an entity that the individual can access however he or she does. And so if you think about something that's sort of always in a person's life, in terms of therapy and counseling, it's very fertile and rich ground for us to be able to explore in session. And so your quote, I think, sort of encapsulates, what it means to be spiritual, or what spirituality is. It's that sort of becoming. In regards to religion and counseling, or spirituality and counseling, I've had clients. I had one client in particular who was married, and her husband hadn't touched her in years, and she wanted to get a sex toy, but she was very ashamed because she did not know what God would think of her. Another instance, I had a client who was very angry with God, and so we were able to use some double chair methods for the client to talk to God, and also for the client to talk to herself. And so, again, there's very fertile ground in session, and I encourage you, in as much as you are comfortable, being willing to explore those places with your client. So that's my message for the week. Your assignments that are due, you have a really good discussion this week that tends to get students thinking, and it deals with spirituality and religion and the client's beliefs according to their spiritual practice. You do have a rough draft due of your final project. I strongly encourage you to look at the rubric for the final project and fashion your rough draft after that. Now, you can do an outline. It doesn't have to be a lot. You can do an outline, or you can, just write some thoughts in the paper as the assignment calls for. But what I strongly suggest is that if you look at the final project rubric and really put a lot of effort into this rough draft, I can give you very, very good feedback for your final. Some of you have done a fantastic job throughout the term utilizing class resources, quoting the text, quoting class resources, and some of you have not. And on your final project, this is not something that you can just wing. I really want to see application of class content and material. So in as much as you put into that rough draft, I will give you feedback on it. You also have a quiz this week that you get 2 attempts on the quiz. It's about spirituality and religious values, or the ACERVIC, that's the branch of ACA that deals with spirituality and religion and counseling. So those are my announcements for the week. I really appreciate the work you all are putting into the course. Let me know if you have any questions or concerns. Thanks.